those are things that admissions committees like to see. Involvement in the community, involvement in things that are outside yourself. Well, welcome to another exciting episode of Am I Ready?, where we look at a real person. We look at a real potential applicant. We examine their MAPT account and everything about them, and I come to some conclusions about whether I think they're ready to apply in the next cycle. And so, joining us today, we have. There she is. Hello, Chanel. How are you?
Hello. How are you? Good.
I'm good. Good. Now, tell us where you're calling from, Chanel.
So I'm in South Florida, almost Miami, but not really. But
okay. Good. And how's the weather in South Florida today?
Really nice, actually. It's not 1,000 degrees, so
good. That's always good, right?
Wish there was some snow this time of year, but definitely not.
Yeah. Good. Well, good. Well, thank you for joining us today, and we're going to talk all about you, and I'll come to some conclusions about what I think the next step is for you, and we'll go from there. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull up your MAPT account. So let me get that pulled up here. There we go. And so knowing that we have viewers for Am I Ready?, but we also have people that listen to it as a podcast. So I'm going to describe some of the things that we're looking at in your MAPT account. But to start things off, we always look at the dashboard, and what we see on the dashboard currently is a cumulative GPA. This is the MCAT calculation of 3.73 and a science GPA of 3.61. So that would lead me to believe, Chanel, that you are a pretty good student. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
Definitely not any glaring errors, but.
Right. And what was your major?
So I majored in sport and exercise science. So basically kinesiology. I think right when I graduated, they switched the name of my degree from one class, but it's all the same.
Yeah. Okay, good. So now, does that lead me to believe that you were an athlete in college, or?
I was an athlete in high school. I actually worked with the women's basketball team in college. So I wasn't, technically I was a student athlete. I had tutors and priority registration and all that stuff because I worked with the team, but I didn't actually play. But I did travel and sometimes practice with them. So yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool. And you enjoyed that?
Yeah. Great experience.
Yeah. No, that's
definitely hard. It was a lot, but it was definitely fun and worth it.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. So what we see here in your MAPT account, if we look at this nice little graph, is we see a pretty steady graph here. Nothing real that's outrageously outside of bounds, either up or down. A few little things, alterations up and down, but the scope of those is pretty small. So you kind of hedged a little bit to say, when I said that you were a strong student, but from what I can see here, it leads me to believe that you were good in the classroom.
Yeah. I know some of the dips are kind of just it bothers me just because I know I did have to work all throughout college. So I know that I remember those semesters where I had a little bit of struggle balancing them.
Sure.
But I usually did pull it out for the end, thankfully. But it was a little rough in between those semesters before the final grade posted. It was a little stressful. So I do remember that.
Right. Sure. And so you were working and going to school at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And basically being a student athlete because I have to be at everything that they have to be at. So
Right. Wow. So so you must be good at time management.
Yes. A very strict schedule. I like a lot of my days were planned like within a couple minutes, which sounds crazy. But it's the only way. You got to do what you got to do.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Time management is a crucial skill to have in medical school, and really as a physician as well, because the days are so packed with activities. So having those strong time management skills, those discipline, ability to discipline yourself is really important. So kudos to you for that. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really good. Good. So what I want to do now is skip down, and we're going to look at MCAT stuff. And what we see here is on the graph, but I want to look more carefully at this slide, which now we have two entries here. Are these real scores, or these practice scores, or what are we seeing?
Yes. No. Unfortunately, these are real scores.
Okay.
I am in the process of I do have another one in January, so upcoming. I've definitely been studying way higher than this.
Good.
My practice scores are right now. I'm in kind of the 5-10 range, so that's nice.
Good.
But even before I took it, my practice tests were always like 505 up there. But the test anxiety is something that I struggle with, and then especially after getting that first low score, that was like really hard for me to come back from, that because that was kind of the first time, I guess, in my med school journey that it was like a failure,
right?
At least to me.
Sure.
So, as you can see, some of, my psych-so score went down, my CAR score went down because I was focusing so much on the other stuff.
Right.
So, I feel like I've I think I have it down packed now, at least. We'll see in January, of course.
Yeah.
But definitely the thing I've struggled with the most.
Yeah. Now, so we see a 2020 score, April 2020 of a 494, and then we see a 2021, June of 2021 score of 496. So, those are clearly not strong scores. I mean, that already. And so what I guess you mentioned test anxiety, and I'd like to talk a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit more about kind of what goes on with you when you feel anxiety related to the test.
So more so while I'm taking the test, I feel like I've struggled with when there's a passage that I don't really know about or something that I struggle with. So it's kind of almost like a guessing game. Whenever it comes up, it just completely derails me. So I'm sure if I didn't have those passages that I would have done way better. But once I get one, it just really gets to my head, and it's really hard to come back from that, especially looking at the timer, and then I just get in my head and it completely derails me. So it's really hard for me to bring it back.
Yeah.
But I definitely got a little bit better about doing that.
Yeah.
Mostly it's just stopping and taking a breath. 4 seconds is okay for the 30 minutes that I would need to come back if I didn't take that one breath between passages.
Right. Would you say that, now I'm relating this back to kind of what you said when we very first started talking about your GPA and stuff, and the sense that I got, Chanel, was a little bit of, how would I say it, maybe self-doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that something that you struggle with, you think?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and this is not unusual for medical school applicants, particularly when it comes to the MCAT. This is without a doubt the highest stakes exam that you've ever taken.
Yeah.
And
it's not like anything else.
No, it's not. And it really kind of can eat your lunch. It can really have a huge effect on kind of how, your ability to sort of move forward with the questions once you get into that zone of thinking where you're just like, I can't do this, and there's all these thoughts come into your head. So I'm sort of presuming that that's kind of what happens to you. Is that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Even during practice tests, but I think the biggest thing for me has just been practicing. And even I know that some people are like really like time regimented. Like I have 10 minutes for this passage. And if I don't get 10 minutes, which is, it's just, I would not recommend doing that.
Yeah.
Because eventually it evens out. You spend 8 minutes on one passage and then 10 on another. So for me, it's just like, don't even look at the screen, close your eyes, take a breath, and then move forward.
Right. Right. Yeah. Good. Well, you know, I think you're right. It sounds like that you kind of know what the issues are with regard to the MCAT. And and so what I would say is just,
wish I would have known them before, but
yeah. I understand. So you know, I would say the positive self-talk is super important, and the breathing that you talked about, I think is really important as well. And so my recommendation with that is that you're on the right track with those techniques, and keep that going, keep that up, and really build yourself up prior to the exam. Prior to the exam, I can do this, whatever works, that's what you got to do. But absolutely. So let's look. So you've got it scheduled for January. You said end of January?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Now, you're taking it in South Florida, or?
Yes.
Good. All right, good. And you said your practice tests right now are in the 510 area?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Well, that's
good.
Like 508, yeah. 510 is like the best I've gotten. But yeah, 508, around 510, yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously, the higher you score, the better off you're going to be in terms of this one piece of the puzzle for the medical school application. And so I would say, keep up the good work, keep yourself pumped up about it. Think of it in terms of athletics, that this is, whatever techniques you used in high school, or whatever techniques you used at the collegiate level, or that you saw and heard about and stuff like that. Use those techniques. Let this be the big bad opponent that comes to town to play your team. And think of it in those terms, in athletic terms, and the techniques that you use to beat that opponent, or see it that way. I think that I know enough about athletics to know that once you get something in your head, it's often it doesn't matter about the athletic part of it. If you psych yourself out, it can really be destructive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
and it definitely works the other way too. Like if you think it's going to work, it'll work.
Yeah. So keep that in mind, definitely keep that in mind, because, positive attitude about it, and a can-do attitude, whatever label you want to put on that, but just, see it in those terms, and really, let yourself be, let yourself be encouraged, and let yourself be motivated in a way that's going to really actualize a strong score. So, good luck on that part of it. It's I get it. It's a struggle. So I understand completely. So we'll go back to the dashboard now. What I want to look at here is your activities. So I see 6,850 activity hours spread amongst, looks like a variety of things. And so what we're going to look at is the details on these activities. And so looks like you've got, quite a few things here. So, so we'll just kind of walk through these. Tell me a little bit about, what I'm seeing here in terms of these activities. Advent Health Volunteer. So this looks like would this be a hospital volunteer type thing?
Yes. So I actually worked at like the surgery desk, and I helped check in and check out patients. I would have to like call the OR and see and tell them what room the doctor was going to be in when they came to talk to the families of patients. But very just outside stuff.
Sure. Then the e-shadowing stuff, that's Dr. Gray's e-shadowing. And have you found that to be helpful?
Absolutely. It's actually, there's a couple of them out there. Dr. Gray's is definitely the one that I enjoy the most, I will say.
Okay, good.
But yeah.
Yeah, good. Give kids the world. This is a non-medical volunteer type thing.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So it's actually near the UCF campus, Disney, the Orlando area, because I did go to UCF. So while I was there, it's basically it's a theme park for children with life-threatening illnesses. But what I like about them specifically is that they're very like fiscally responsible. They're like one of the most like the top regarded as the way that they spend their money, because I know that that's something that was important to me, because there's a lot of places that you donate maybe $20 and only $2 actually goes to the people they're trying to help.
Right.
But I know that Give Kids the World, I think it's like, last time I checked, it was about like 90% of what you donate goes directly to the families.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then I also liked that it's not just the child, it's the entire family that they pay for to come and stay on the grounds. So most of the volunteering, honestly, is just hanging out with kids, doing a lot of like simple stuff like cleaning tables, serving food.
Yeah.
But just even the little things, just making like the biggest impact. And I definitely have in my personal statement, there's an experience that I had there that was definitely one of my like seeds, as Dr. Gray says, for why I wanted to be a physician. So
yeah, that's awesome. Now it looks like you've done a little bit of research as well.
Yes. So I had an internship at Fox Chase Cancer Center in Philly, but it was only for one summer, unfortunately. So it was an amazing experience. I learned so much. But it was definitely like a short period of time. So after I did that, I guess that kind of like lit the fire of like research is kind of cool. Sure. And I definitely understand like why med schools are like research, you got to do research, you need some research experience, because I can't even, the things that I've learned, there's just so many, I don't know. I just feel like there's no other way that I could have known that except by doing it.
Yeah.
So that was nice. And then once I had done that, when I got back to UCF, I actually had a professor who needed some help in his lab, and I was able to help him out with more of the sports side of stuff. Yeah. So that was a little bit more longevity, and I got to spend more time doing that. And then that led to my undergraduate thesis, which I ended up working with the same people in the same lab, and then developing my own research project and all that good stuff.
Yeah, nice. Now, I was thinking I saw something on here. What is Order of Pegasus?
Yes. So it's like the most like prestigious award that you can get at UCF. So basically they just look for like all around students who just are doing a lot, I guess.
Sure.
And they just reward them for that. And I didn't actually win the award, but it was kind of like it was a big moment for me. That's why I put it in there, just because the fact that I was even considered was just, I don't know. I was like so honored that they even thought that I did enough to like be on the committee and to get to the interview process and doing all of that. But yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, congrats on that. Looks like quite a bit of physician shadowing.
Yes.
And tell me about that.
So it started out with it was through my volunteering. I was volunteering like 1 or 2 days a week, obviously being with the surgeons. And then you get to like figure out the ones that actually pay attention to you and want to talk to you and talk to the nurses and everyone else, the people who are a little bit more outgoing. And then they kind of just plant a seed, and it's like, oh, wow, I can actually talk to them. So I did have one doctor, Dr. Brady. He's a urologist who I ended up developing a relationship with. And I started by shadowing him. And then it kind of just turned into, he was just like, oh, why don't you just I have to go do something really quick, or we have some time in between the next surgery, so you can follow around my RN, or I'm doing a surgery with this other doctor if you want to follow them for the day and like do all that. So he was definitely committed to making sure that I saw everything, like even talking to people who like do the medical devices. If they were in the OR, he was asking them questions like in between surgeries. So he was definitely great. He like actually talked to me during the surgeries and encouraged the other people in the room, even if they weren't surgeons or doctors, or just to talk to me and tell me about that stuff. So definitely really useful. So it's not like diverse per se, because he's just a urologist. So I technically was only in that specialty, but the way that he was like, go look at this, go look at this person, go look at this person, like talk to this PA.
Sounds like he really took you under his wing a lot and just kind of guided you a little bit.
Yeah. So grateful for that.
That's really awesome. I mean, isn't it great when we encounter people like that in our lives that take an interest in us?
Yeah, like the one that actually talks to you.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, I think that makes such a difference in our outlook and our enthusiasm, and so I'm glad you had that person that really showed interest and really so that's awesome. That's really, really strong. So and you've got some work on here. You were a student worker, I guess, at UCF.
Yes.
And then tutoring. What did you tutor?
So it was just like K through 12. So kind of like everything. So that actually stemmed from my other work. So normally over the summer, I would do like camp counselor and like supervisor and stuff like that. And then the tutoring was more new because once COVID hit, we can't have like groups of 50 kids in one room anymore.
Right.
So it kind of transitioned to we need to start helping them with school, because this online schooling is not the best. And a lot of these kids are really struggling. So that's kind of where I transitioned into tutoring, which was kind of new for me. But I mean, it ended up working out. It was kind of just where the need was. But it was definitely all like just basic like math, science, reading, and then more of just like getting them to do the work and understanding that they had to do the work.
Right.
And paying attention in their Zoom classes and.
Right. Good. That's awesome. I mean, we need that encouragement and stuff, particularly in times like this where everything's kind of turned upside down. Right.
Yeah.
Lot of basketball. And
yes,
we've talked a little bit about that already, and we've talked about your undergraduate research stuff. Now it looks like quite a bit of stuff related to the YMCA, and
yes.
So talk a little bit about that.
So that is a little bit more personal for me because I kind of grew up in the YMCA. When I was younger, my mom worked there. And for people who don't know what the YMCA is, I guess, it's not, I guess most people just think it's kind of a gym, but it's so much more than that. It's swim lessons, it's childcare, it's tutoring, it's fitness for people of all ages. So it's just a lot. So even just growing up in there, always being there for summer camp after school, and then like doing the counselor in training, and then being a counselor into a supervisor. So it's kind of just been something that I was always involved in. And then even now, I work with teenagers at the Y now, and then while also doing after school. So it's just kind of just whatever they're doing, I'm involved in that.
Yeah. It sounds like, I mean, the way you describe it, it sounds very leadership oriented, at least for you in terms of, being a camp counselor and a supervisor and stuff like that. It sounds very leadership oriented. Yeah.
I've definitely grown through there. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you feel like you've, kind of developed some leadership skills through that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's kind of where it started. I think just not having so much fun at home, and then just going to the Y, and then they're like, oh, do this, or I'll show you how to do this, or I'll teach you how to coach so that you can coach and officiate for us, and you can be a sport. So just throwing me wherever I could be was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, very, very good. Good. So that you know, obviously, I like hearing that. I like the idea that you're involved and that you've got, you know, things that you've done that impact other people's lives. You know, kids' lives, teenagers' lives, you know, stuff like that. That's all important stuff, and those are things that admissions committees like to see. Involvement in the community, involvement in things that are outside yourself. That make a difference in your world and in the world of those, you know, kids and stuff. So that's awesome. Really, really good. All right. Let's see. Let's go back to the dashboard here. So we've talked about your activities, and you've got all your prereqs done and all that. Let's look a little bit about the med schools that you're looking at. So my assumption is you're definitely applying pretty much everywhere in Florida. Is that pretty accurate, you think?
Would like to stay here, yeah.
Right.
And then I kind of just let it like guide of like places where I've had experiences, like where I did my internship in Philly. I actually did some shadowing there, and then a lot of the other doctors that were working on the project or like supplying, well, not supplying, but I guess like helping us finding participants and stuff like that were within Temple's hospital. Right. So being like near Temple's campus and being in Philly. So I did enjoy my time there. And then the doctor whose lab I was working with, Dr. Wright, and she also went to Pitt. So just talking to her about her experiences and the things that she enjoyed. So
Sure. Now, there's an outlier here, and that's the University of Missouri Columbia.
Yes.
What's the deal with that?
That was very random. It kind of stuck up on me. I actually went to UCF has like I guess it's like I don't know what the word, like a summit. They kind of have like a conference that they put on, and they have all these schools like come, and you have like 30-minute periods, and they give their presentation. You get to talk to them. Yeah. So I went to one in person. And I don't know what it was about the person that was there from Mizzou, but we really hit it off. He was really great. Definitely helped me out with a lot of the stuff. Like you should look into this, like what to look for in a med school, not even just for like look at us, but kind of like the questions that I should ask. And he was super helpful. And I do know the biggest thing for that was that a couple of years ago, I think it's fairly new, they have a new orthopedic center. So that was definitely, I was like, ooh, that looks cool.
Yeah, cool. So. Excellent. Yeah, that's great. Now, all I see on here are MD schools. You're considering DO schools or no?
Yes. No.
You're not?
No.
Okay. Is there a particular reason, or just not something that interests you? Or tell me a little bit about that thought process.
Yeah, it just wasn't something that interests me. Because even in the beginning, I think that's kind of when I first decided, because I didn't always know that I wanted to go to med school and be a physician. I kind of started with PT because that's what I wanted to do. And then I shadowed that a little bit. Wasn't really feeling it. So I kind of had to move away because in high school, it's like, okay, well, I love sports and science is cool. And maybe I'll do PT. Like that just seems like that's what'll be fun. And then of course, working with the team and just being around that, I just thought that was for me. And then shadowing and actually figuring out what it was about, I was like, not really. So I think for me, it was like moving away from just the things that I like and kind of like really like searching and being more open-minded to things. So I just felt that MD gave me more options in terms of like, if I wanted to do whatever I decide to do, because I don't know, just the more exposure to different specialties, it's like maybe there will be something that I never even thought that I would like that caught my eye. So,
Okay, good. So yeah, I mean that I understand that. I would encourage you to consider looking at doing a little bit of research on osteopathic medicine. I think that it is definitely a myth in terms of the idea that you are restricted in terms of the number of specialties that you might be able to go into or whatever if you go the DO path. I don't think that that's necessarily accurate. I think that, you mentioned in your, when you were talking just a couple of seconds ago about, having an open mind and being open-minded to, whatever. So I'd encourage you to approach osteopathic medicine in the same way. Be open-minded, look at it, maybe ask your urology, friend, if he knows an osteopathic physician and might be able to get you in contact with one that you could ask questions and just kind of see, and maybe it turns out that it's not something that you're interested in. But there are quite a few osteopathic medical schools in Florida, and I would encourage you to kind of just look at that. Don't mark it off the table, completely, but investigate it a little bit and just, see if it's something that might open up more options for you.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. Gonna
Good.
Make note of that right now.
Yeah. Good. Let me see if there's anything else I want to look at here. We've looked at the med schools. Okay, let's go back up here. Now, you mentioned a few minutes ago about the seed, and I forget exactly what you were saying about where that initial seed comes from for you. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so for me, it was actually, so I guess it's kind of YMCA related, but I'll start with my volunteering at Give Kids the World, which is the one that I open up with in my personal statement, actually.
Yeah.
So I was volunteering there one time, and I was just picking up plates, clearing food trays, serving people food. And there was a table, there was this family there, and it was a little boy with two of his family members. And I don't know what it was. I was just drawn to him. I was super interested I just wanted to be near them. Like he was super cute. He looked like he was a lot of fun. The family was just so excited about planning their next day at the Disney parks, because normally they get tickets to everything so that they're all able to do it. So I'm cleaning all the tables all around them, and I'm just doing my thing. And I end up, once they're done, I end up cleaning their table and taking all of their dishes and stuff. And the grandmother that was with him just completely broke down, just full of tears, because she was like, I can't remember the last time that I was able to like sit down and finish my food. Wow. So that was a huge moment for me, because and that's something that I do like about Give Kids the World, is that it's like the whole family, because it's hard on them too.
Sure.
So it was kind of just how I felt like I wanted to do a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then I realized that was kind of something that had always been there, even with the Y, talking about how like it's not just a gym. There's just there's so many other things that you can do, and I think with medicine, at least personally for me, like looking instead of just PT, like looking at rehab, sports injuries, the things that I was interested in, and just going a little bit further and looking at like health as a whole and medicine and stuff like that. So
Good. That's great. It sounds like it had a huge impact on you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very good. Good. Well, let me tell you just a few of my thoughts. I think that Chanel, I think the MCAT is going to be a big thing for you, and this is not, this is not a big surprise for you. I think that if you can get, make a marked difference in your score, that's gonna help a lot. Doesn't mean you have to, knock the top out of it, but I definitely think that the MCAT is going to be, a big part of your application. It doesn't mean that it's all about metrics, but I think it is important. Anytime you get below a 500, there's going to be concerns. And I think that, clearly this is something that you struggle with and that you're working on. And I think that's, you're doing all the right stuff to make an impact on that. And I think you've got enter into it with the right mindset, and you know that to be true, and you know what that needs to look like. And so I think you've got a lot of the techniques that you need down, and it's just now putting them into practice. You know,
yeah, easier said than done, for sure.
Absolutely. No, yeah. I completely agree with that. And so, good luck on that. And I would say, just keep your attitude positive, and do the steps the breathing, crucial, and not getting sidetracked into that, downward spiral of self-doubt. That's so important. So important. So keep that up. Yeah. The other thing that I think, and I'd like to hear your thoughts about this, is clinical hours. You really don't have any clinical hours.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, now you've graduated now, or?
Yes, I graduated in December last year.
Last year. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's been difficult, obviously, with COVID, and clinical situations and stuff have been few and far between for a while now. But, and just for our audience sake, what we typically talk about in terms of the differences between shadowing and clinical activity is passive versus active. Shadowing is, you're following around, you're watching. It's a passive activity, largely, not always, but largely. Now, what I would like to see are some clinical, activities, and what I mean by that is putting you into direct contact with patients. This typically shows up as something like a CNA or a medical assistant, or sometimes scribing can be very clinical. They'll often depends on who you're scribing for and what they'll allow you to do or not do in that kind of situation. So I'd like to see some of that in your application. Now, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely something that I've struggled with, especially since COVID. Just for me, since I kind of decided that I kind of switched my path like mid my college. Right. So I went from PT to wanting to do med school. So it was kind of like trying to get into it. And then my last year was COVID. Right. So just trying to get in there, it's really hard. And then I don't know if anybody also has this issue, but just being in the Miami area, Florida, everyone wants you to speak Spanish, and I do not. So that's definitely something that I've been working on. Yeah. But it is definitely very competitive, and it's hard. But I just got to keep trying, I guess.
Yeah. Now, have you talked to the urology guy about this?
So he's in Orlando. So a lot of the stuff gotcha. That since I've been home,
since you graduated,
it's been kind of hard. Yeah. And that's honestly kind of a big part of like why I wanted to do this. If I didn't know I was ready, because it's like, am I tired of being at home? Like, am I really ready to apply, or do I just not want to be home anymore? So
now let me, what I would encourage, one thing I would encourage you to do, if you still have contact with Dr. whatever his name is, the urologist,
Dr. Brady. Yeah.
Brady. Yeah. If you still have contact with him, I would, I think it'd be, it may even be valuable enough to make the drive to Orlando, to visit with him, and to see if he would help you get into contact with a physician in your local area. Often physicians have networks, and they have all kinds of people. I went to med school with so-and-so, or I did residency with, Dr. whatever. And, she's in, so you never know what contacts Dr. Brady might have, particularly if you are direct with him and say, this is what I need. I need X, Y, and Z. Would you be willing to help me figure out, do you have any, and just be very direct. I live in in South Florida. I'm trying to get, involved in some clinical stuff with a local physician. Do you have any contacts? Would you be willing to help me, with anybody that in South Florida? And just even if it starts off with just a cup of coffee with a physician in South Florida, that you can just sit down with and say, can I pick your brain for 30 minutes? Or can I, can we just talk about what you do, or whatever they'll let you do? If you can, visit with them, and sometimes you just have to be very direct and say, I'm looking for ways that I can get involved in clinical activities, and I'm struggling. And any amount of assistance that you could give in that way, if you have colleagues, if you have, whatever that you feel like might be valuable for me to talk to or connect with, I'm open. Just be that direct with him, and see what might come from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah. And, if you have to get on the phone with them, or, email him or whatever, getting in contact with him and saying, because he sounds like he'd be a good letter of recommendation writer for you too.
Yeah.
And so I would say, you want to keep in contact with him, let him know what's going on with you, let him know what your needs are, whatever. If he's that interested in getting you ramped up for going into medical school, then utilize that, and got to let him know what you need, and then see what it would be surprising to me if he didn't know somebody in South Florida that he could connect you with.
Yeah.
So be direct.
Okay.
So my thoughts really are this. MCAT, we know is got to change. There needs to be an increase there. I think the clinical hours is going to be a big deal. I think that the lack of clinical participation here is going to be, notably different than potentially notably different than other applicants, but that may not be true, because you're really in that group where COVID really disrupted pretty much your whole senior year, right?
Yeah, it was really rough. Because even now, like, just trying to find doctors to shadow, it's like no extra people anywhere. Yeah. Like, not in the office, not anywhere.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's getting better. But it's definitely, I have a lot to write about my secondaries about COVID.
Yeah. Now you're working now?
I'm kind of working. It's mostly volunteer work. So I did say that I worked with the teens. So I'm a teen advisor. They have like a leaders club that they do within the YMCA. So it's technically like only paid 2 hours a week. But obviously that's not how long it takes.
Yeah.
So it's definitely more volunteer work, just because with my MCAT studying, I didn't want to commit, but I still I'm not like tied down to the hours. But then with that comes with not getting paid for it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a lot of volunteer work right now, but really just focusing on the MCAT, because that is my biggest, I feel like that's the one thing that I'm like really struggling with.
Yeah, sure. Right. So, what I would encourage you to do is, look for job opportunities. If you're, if you're so inclined, look for job opportunities that will get you into a clinical setting. This could be, a medical assistant. That's an awesome job where you get lots of clinical participation. Any kind of hospital job that puts you in contact with patients is CNA or patient transport even, there's a lot of different things. So looking for those, and most of those are going to be paid job opportunities. I would say, look at those. As many hospitals as there are in the South Florida area, I would be on all their websites and, looking and seeing what's available and what might be an option to get you into that clinical setting in a meaningful way. I think that would be beneficial, and definitely would be something that would support your medical school application in a really significant way. So what I would say, Chanel, here is that I'm going to give you, in terms of red, yellow, green, you're securely in the yellow area. And what that means is, I think, is MCAT and clinical activities. Those are the two things that you are really, everything else looks great. You've got volunteerism, you've got really great grades in your college experience, but the MCAT and the lack of clinical exposure are the two big areas that you're going to need to really consider. And so what I would say is, MCAT, you already know this is the thing that needs to happen. There needs to be an improvement in the score there. And then clinical, I would start off by contacting the guy in Orlando and work your way with him and see what he can do for you, and then go from there. So I think it's yet to be seen whether I think you're going to be ready for next summer for the application in 22. I think those two things really are going to be important. Plus, I think I really encourage you to consider the DO route as an option, and look at that. Think about what that might open up for you, and let that it'd be really good if you could have some contact with an osteopathic physician, just to see what they do and what their life is like and how they perceive the difference between a DO and an MD. But I think that, you may be surprised in terms of what that might look like. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you for joining us on Am I Ready today, and good luck to you. Please keep in touch with us and let us know how things are going.
Yes. Thank you so much for all this great advice. Definitely have a lot of work to do, but thank you.
Well, that's what life's all about. Life is about hard work and all that. So, but you can do it, but good luck to you. And like I said, keep in contact with us.